Yeshua taught me the way of the stars. Hello again, my people. Skywalker here for you again. Many times you heard me, but you did not hear me. And many things I placed inside your palms, but yet you did not feel them. Today I wish you will both hear and listen. It is not from the light do I give you this beam. It is from the darkness, so that you can discern it against the background. It is not the witch that soars on a broom saying abracadabra to make mystical events occur. It is the enlightened one that soars upon the ray of light to stars so far that he can measure the difference between the heavens and the earth, and even find more awesome ways than imaginable. Who sings his thrill of hooray, who soars by night unto day, from a little ray unto the heavens, and among the great stars we fly. Here again, I come to tell you this: if you were born to be that beacon in the sky, this has always been the greatest legacy. This is the legacy of Christ. It is the legacy of all the Christ of God that our brother Yeshua speaks and spoke about. But did you ever know that Yeshua loved to use the term all the Christ of God? Did you know that? Then tell me, from whence would this term come? The beacon is in the sky. Look at the sun. Why do they fear you stargazing? They fear that you will illuminate. Yeshua is the illuminated one. Now that word spells fear to you. That word illuminated, spells fear to you. And why? Everyone claims everything to use in their ungodly ways. All things here are real. Do not look for what is allegorical. Just see the reality in these words. I have always been connected to the astral plane, and I knew that from even before I was born to this life. When even I questioned God in between dimensions, I read energies from people that were close to me, and it made me very uncomfortable, to the degree that some saw me to be shy or jittery. What people don't say can be very intense. Yet there was ever that wonderful few that you wanted to stick around. I also knew that there were ways to cross dimensions, yet I felt that I was the only one this way, or I felt I was the only one like me. However, as I began to decipher the actual words of the Bible and the underlying truths, I realized that the Jesus of the Bible was exactly like me and perfectly unlike those that claimed him, who all hated me for seeing the truth as he did and preached. It was like the lions stealing the story of the lamb that did not roar and telling their cubs what an awesome roar that lamb had. Then they would tell the little young cubs, they would tell the little young lambs especially, how they had no part to do with that great lamb, their father, who was not related to them, because they bleated like sheep. Oh, you little lambs, you bleat like sheep, so you cannot go unto the father, big lamb. You are not related to him, for he roars. This is the story of man and the Bible. I knew things that I had to connect with, and I created many devices in spirit form. I was usually mocked and told that I was mad about psychiatrists and about their belief that someone who sits around all day with his hands at his jaws thinking was insane. That is what they made me out to be. I was also told that by me reading so much and studying forbidden books, even though some were referred to in the Bible, like the book of Enoch, for example. It is the Bible that suggested that I should read the book of Enoch. But no, They told me that I would be mad for reading them. Yet it was the same Bible that told me to read the book of Enoch, I repeat, and other books that it referenced. And then I found many more books. It got to the point where I actually stopped reading books. A strange thing happened. I only had to look at the cover of the book and I would know exactly what was inside of it. This is the uncanny kind of science, isn't it? I wanted to know how this was possible. One time, while I lived in Bermuda, a woman at a bookstore asked me to come along sometimes to explain books to people who wanted to know what they were about. Books I never even read. This got me more interested in finding out how this magic like kind of reality occurred. I never saw anything as magic, for I knew that God's way is more of science. However, what I sought was to know the natural realities behind this anomaly. I remembered earlier as a child, if I read a book, I could remember the pages as needed. This helped, but because it seemed normal, I took it for granted. For example, if a question came up, I would go back and see the page I read, and I could reread it in my mind again. It seemed normal to me, but after I lost that gift, I realized that it was something special. No, it is just something inside me that relates to my knowing, but not the same words that I received it. Like now I know it, but it's not in the same words or I can't see it. It was like this other thing I could do. Like I'm walking on the street and I see something and then I can go home and draw a picture of it. So all these things were lost at the same time. After I lost that ability, I was fascinated with the universe and with the humankind's flawed conceptions about God. So I wanted to channel for myself. Then in Bermuda, I remembered things that I wrote while I was in high school. Starting from around 1984, these were about quantum physics, but in a strange way, they were about God in true perspective. Although none of us knew quantum physics at that time. But now I can say it was about quantum physics because we know now what quantum physics is saying. And it's exactly the things that I was talking about. I called it the high thoughts, God in perspective, because there was no notion of quantum physics to me. Then, when I went back to look at my own decipherings from the past, I found the photon, the way of that one light and the way of the stars. It was on a few pages where I spoke about the element that you could see, but yet you could never locate it. It was there, but it was there proving that there was no location in reality. For thought needed no location, and all was merely reckonings. By this theory, I wanted to know how to transcend elusive mind barriers and see the workings of the universe. However, how would I manage to ride the wave and saddle that shining stallion to the zenith of the sun? Then I found that persona of that ascended spirit in whose name they tried to curse me. That Yeshua, who first was a friend, then my brother, and then also me. I and my brother are one. I discovered everything that I ever said and was condemned for in all the things he said and was condemned for. And yet the truth is written in the Bible, but it is written as a lie, so deep that you can never see what it is. When Yeshua spoke about the way of the star in the form of reincarnation, it became a dead light in the Bible about an angry God of a heaven to be built by unholy behavior. But yet, good seems evil and evil seems good, which impairs the ability to see why that heaven would not work. And Yesu told me the day I found him. He said, they will hide the things that I said and preach the things that I did not, and those things that I condemned will they endorse in my name. And I see it. They even endorse blood sacrifice in his name. saying that he gave them his blood to drink and he gave them his flesh to tear. Then, at the end of that time, he continued, my truth shall come back to the surface as good wine is always proven among the bad ones. And I adored him as a bigger brother. So I said, brother, I understand that there is an astral part. I know of these things, but how can I find that intimate way to get there? He said, look within. I said, I have always looked within, for I see no other way. He said, I shall show you how to ride upon the ray, that little beam of light. I said, hooray. And I said, thank you, brother. Early in the morning, he brought me to the forest and told me to listen. Then he asked, what do you hear? I said, I hear the sound of life, birds and insects and the dog barking and the call of other animals. I also heard the builders building. I heard all manner of life. He said, travel with the energy of life. Travel with it by being one with it and see what you will see. I saw and I traveled. I heard the call of the earth saying to come home, come home, come home, come home. I was looking for earth and I saw it like a wonderful motherfish inside of the great ocean. And the moon, the sun, and the stars were swimming and dancing with glee as they covered their circuits. I asked, what is this? And why is all these inanimate objects alive? And he said, how can something that is inhabited by conscious force be, as you say, inanimate? By dead people defining living things as dead, life does not exist the living. It is all that one life, and by that truth I understood the way of nature and the mother that nurtures me. If my life is that life which is the earth, my priorities are also that of earth. How must we sustain the one in the all? After that journey, I sat and pondered for hours. Then I came to me. Then he came to me again. He said, it is time. And I asked, time for what? He pointed to the river and said, look at the sun. What time is it now? I said that it was noontime. So he told me to be at peace. Listen to the sound and know the sound as all. Listen to the sound and know the sound as the all. Listen to the sound and know the sound as the all. Follow that wholesome stream of sound, and I traveled with the sound. I was swimming on dry land until by the way of sound, I realized that the stream was not in the river, but all around, and that we all lived in the water, where all was connected, but only to different degrees of intensity. Therefore, I tell you, my friend, you need no gills like fishes, but you live in the water, which you are too blind to realize. That stream of sound opened my eyes to a new dimension of one cosmic force and the power of how word sounds created and shall again create by abracadabra. It is not a witch and a broom. It is I and you that follow this wholesome stream of sound to the highest wisdom of making material patterns. Material patterns. Material patterns. Heaven and earth might pass away, but our words will create. There is no power greater than the greater word sounds combined by cosmic winds. There is no power greater than the greater word sounds combined by cosmic winds. Let us speak life together. Let us speak life together. I have by this gift returned the favor with love in speaking the destruction of the wicked. How many times have you heard this, but you still did not listen? How many times have you heard, but you never even heard? You heard, but you couldn't hear. Well, now look, see, and recognize how the sound of powerful words have manifested by the stars that fall around you. Do you see the stars falling around you? Then, at the point where evening came and shadows got ready to fall, he said, "Take the sun with you into the cold night." I said, "How do I take a humongous and fiery sun inside of me?" He said, "It cannot be larger or more fiery than your thought, which contains it. See that ball of light in its fiery red flame, and keep it in your infinitely large and infinitely fiery mind. Place it inside your mind until you are ready to remember it." So I looked at the object before it fell upon the horizon, and I willed it to go down in my own cosmic horizon until it was time for me to make it rise. I looked at the huge sun, and I measured its circumference by visual. It had defined perimeters, and I could see it with my eyes, and I could then pass it with my mind, and it became smaller than my mind. So I looked at the object before it fell upon the horizon, and I willed it to go down inside my humongous infinite mind and into my own cosmic and onto my own cosmic horizon until it was time for me to make it rise. Then at night, I was home before bedtime, and he appeared asking me, "What do you want?" I said, "I want to know." He said, "You have the light. Raise the sun inside you. Raise the might of the cosmic and follow that marvelous stream of light to the zenith of the sun, to all the stars." So I raised the sun I had placed within that little sun. I followed the light to different stars and to many places. I took all three teachings about the wisdom of life in the early morning, the power of the sound at noontime, when was the best time to connect with life at noontime, and I took the wisdom of light in the night, and by these have I connected. I have sworn, and these are some of my experiences. I was in the US once, and the winter was cold, but I stayed in a chilly place at nights. So in the early morning when I went to work, I sat at a gallery where there was a waterfall, and I took the sunlight with me. At nights, I raised the sun, and that kept me perfectly warm until morning. I followed the light to distant stars, and I found that Earth's locality was larger than it was given credit for. Two, two atoms, two atoms do not touch each other, as the Earth and Mars do not touch each other, but they are within one same locality. It is one cosmic system, and outer space. It is one cosmic system. Outer space is beyond its perimeters. But when you include the Earth and Mars and those other near planets, there is no outer space within that realm. It is beyond those borders. Outer space is beyond that force of oneness. Australia is warmer than England, but they are both planes upon the earth. Before man will be able to brag about space mastering, Mars and other near planets has to be seen as one locality. Because it is. There is no sense to brag about traveling your own backyard. Also, some of the distant realms seem to be attached to frequency instead of distance, which means that you will not travel to them like by spacecraft. You have to travel to them by crossing dimensions. I say this because if I stumble upon a certain frequency, I will access that plane only once unless I will again remember or recreate the exact frequency. If I can always remember how, I don't know much about frequencies as the radio channel. I hear them talk about hertz, this, hertz, that. I really don't understand. But it's the frequencies. If there was a way for me to measure and put down the frequencies and I go somewhere, I could go back by finding that exact same frequency again. But then many of the places I go is a one-off thing because I tapped into the frequency accidentally, or should I say accidentally? Accidentally is a word that maybe will work to the limited value that it does. Like once, when I went by sound below the waters at night with the light, I went down and then I went up. I found myself on the shore of a plain that at first seemed like another country on earth, but then I saw that it was too peaceful, peacefully perfect. It was too peacefully perfect to be of such, or to be of any place on earth. It was a very small population in proportion to its size. The stores were left open and there were no security measures in place. I saw a tall, slim built. In fact, I want to go back to the stores before I go along. If you went to a store to buy something, you are gonna have to buy and leave your payment because there was nobody to attend to you. So everything depended on universal integrity in that place. So the stores were just there, left open. I saw a tall, slim-built, healthy-looking man. No one told me, but because of his aura, I used our conception to what we deem as angels to define him by. Angel is not a useful word in total, but it is useful enough to those that can only conceive it this way. He was very dark as a black person. You know, even a black person can be darker. No, he was the darker one, quite dark. All of their civilization was this one race. There was no other race that I see there, but like 7 foot tall on average for the males. I thought I had to be cautious to approach him as I was not within his frame of norm, but to him my presence did not seem to make a difference, like he was not alarmed at me being there, so I went to speak with him. I also wanted to be in his presence because the energy was divine. I remember at one point I asked him how did he fly because he had no wings, but intuitively I knew that he could fly. Then he stood up straight and suddenly seemed lifeless. He was able to move around his internal force, that life force, without it being contained by the body or entrapped in the body. He stood up straight and suddenly seemed lifeless, still standing on his feet, but I heard a fluttering like wings, and it seemed only by sound and not by sight that his spirit was blasting with high rocket speed to the high heavens. He went far in that instant. Then it fluttered back and landed inside him again, and then he returned to his natural animated self. After that, I tried to return a few times to that place, but I was never allowed to cross the border back to that place. I could not find the exact frequency. It was about reconnecting with the exact frequency, as in like how the radio works, but deeper. It is not about vibrating at higher or lower frequency either, as people would bandy around words without the understanding of individual complexities. One other time, I went to a place where the people seemed like green beings, humanoid in appearance, but not men like we know them. They had excellent technologies, but it was not a beautiful place, and I felt in my heart that there were beings that liked to war. When you have these experiences, it becomes difficult for someone to come with a book and quote scriptures to you. Yesu said, Yesu said that once you come to the knowledge of what reality actually is, you will never go back to the realm of ignorance. This is the anomaly. In a last world, the truth is the anomaly. Peace out.